Welcome back. Here's the tank version of my previous vehicles that can already be added in video. Like my previous video, this will include some World War II vehicles and won't exclusively be from the modern era. The M728 is a final production vehicle from a line of CEV attempts dating as far back as 1945. The armored engineer vehicle concept was inspired by the British AVREs and their effectiveness in the latter stages of the war. The first attempt at an armored engineer vehicle was on the M26 chassis with a 165mm demolition gun firing Hesh. The T-39 had terrible luck every time it was recommended for standardization, as the chassis it was on was replaced by a newer MBT. The T-39 underwent 4 chassis: the M26, the M46, M47, and T-95. All of these except the T-95 chassis would be recommended for standardization before it was replaced by a new chassis. In 1966, the T-118 was a new combat engineer vehicle using the new M60 chassis with a new gun XM135 based on the Centurion AVRE's L9A1 demolition gun. It was standardized as the M135, and an improved round based on the M123 Hesh was also standardized. 243 combat engineer vehicles were built between 1966 and 1972. Germany's tank tree has already been fleshed out with a notable lack of a KV2 analog. Sure, you can take the Sturmpanzer II into up tiers, but that's an open-top SPG. The Heusch Leica 10 takes the 105mm howitzer on a Geschützwagen 4 chassis. 3 prototypes were built and it never entered into production. I believe this one should be in the tech tree as a non-premium analog to the Brummbach. The T62 prototype with a 100mm UA-TS gun, a modernization of the D54-TS gun. The U5TS gun in the production T62 was a rechambered D54TS to accommodate a 150mm round instead of the 100mm. The gun could fire all the 100mm rounds the Soviet had in store for the D10TS on the T55A, albeit with poorer accuracy as it was smoothbore rather than rifle. The still 2-plane stabilized and the higher muzzle velocity will prove better penetration against the T55s, so it's best to be in the same BR as the base production T62. I think it's a crime that the British have to rely on South Africa for the bulk of their armored car suite in War Thunder when they have a lot of their own. The Alvis Saladin is a 6x6 armored car with a low-pressure 76mm L5A1 that is found on the FV101 Scorpion. The slated ammunition is Hesh, high explosive, and smoke. I do hope Gaijin fleshes out the British armored cars, as they have a good range of light tanks and armored cars that do not rely on South Africa for their lineups. Japan has a bunch of derp guns in its lineup: the Chiha short gun, Chiha long gun, and the Type 75 self-propelled howitzer. However, another interesting one would be the Type 4 Hotno self-propelled howitzer. Instead of the Ho-Rose 150mm, this one is a lighter 120mm howitzer on an open-top chassis. When someone says Fresha, everyone thinks Spike ATGMs. It's not always the case. Though the Fresha can mount Spike ATGMs, they weren't always fitted with it, hence the Fresha, using the same gun as the Dardo, can occupy the same BR as the Type 87 RCV without an ATGM to bolster the 8.3 lineup of Italy. France is perhaps the only nation in War Thunder aside from China that doesn't have an autocannon IFV in its tech tree. While the original AMX-10P used a 20mm cannon, there existed a variant made for the Singaporean Armed Forces which was an AMX-10P with a one-man turret fitted with a 25mm gun. There also existed a variant with no gun and fitted with a hot ATGM launcher that did not go into service. The PBV 501 is a Swedish designation for the BMP-1. Sweden purchased ex-East German BMP-1s and modified them to conform to NATO standards. The most significant modification was the removal of the Malyutka launcher over the barrel and the autoloader for the 2A28 gun. However, the gun had to be manually loaded by the gunner as the BMP provided no suitable space for a loader in the turret. The Type 59-2A is different from the premium ZTZ-59-2 that was recently added to War Thunder. The Type 59-2A uses the 105mm ZPT-83 gun based on the L7 gun. It fires the same ammunition as the ZTZ-59D1, but lacks the ERA. I believe it would be a good 8.3 tank for China. Aside from this, the ZTZ-59-2A is also best known for its appearance in the 1989 Tiananmen